By now, most people have heard of Claude Cowork, an AI that can actually do work for you. But in this video, I'm taking you from a beginner, level 1, all the way to a pro at level 7. Because in reality, most people using Cowork get stuck around level 2 and 3 and never go further. So let's fix that, starting with level 1. If you've been using Claude in the regular chat, Cowork is going to feel like a massive upgrade because it has direct access to the files on your computer. So here's the setup. Open Claude on your desktop and select Cowork at the very top. The first thing Claude is going to ask you is what folder do you want to give it access to? And this is important because instead of handing over your entire hard drive, you're going to want to create a dedicated folder for Claude to work within. And I have one on my desktop called Claude Workspace. Now, instead of going back and forth with Claude in a chat, we're just going to delegate a task. So for example, let's tell Claude to take the script from my last YouTube video and repurpose that content into 5 tweets, 1 LinkedIn post, and to create an aesthetically pleasing image to include in that post. So here's the script right here on my desktop. I'm just going to drop it in my Claude Workspace folder, which Claude right here has access to. For example, if your manager wants to know what you got done this week, take all of the files you worked on that week, put them in the Claude Workspace folder, and then tell Cowork to create a beautiful PowerPoint presentation summarizing all of the work that you completed. Great, so Claude is finished. It was able to repurpose the content from my video about the 9 features of Claude Cowork into a little tweet thread right here, and then also a LinkedIn post covering the same information. And you can obviously ask Cowork to change the format to a Word doc or whatever makes sense. And if I scroll down, I can view the infographic right here. This is the image that I can include in my LinkedIn post. It's clean, polished, and professional looking, and it only took me a few minutes, and this is just level 1. Because level 2 is where things get really powerful with connectors. And connectors let Claude tap into the tools you already use: Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, Notion, Slack, and 38 other apps. To set up connectors, go to the left-hand sidebar and select Customize, and then you'll see Connectors. Here is where you'll want to add your connectors such as Gmail, Google Calendar, Drive, Notion. You just click the plus sign right here and browse connectors, and you'll see a list of all of the available connectors. And once you have that set up, you could ask Cowork to use those connectors to accomplish tasks. So for example, I'm gonna ask Cowork to check my Gmail for an eye doctor appointment I recently booked and add it to my Google Calendar. So it's done. Claude was able to find the appointment in my Gmail, and then when I now open up my Google Calendar, I check for next week, I can see my eye exam has been added to my Google Calendar. And this is a really simple example, but I just wanted to give you a feel of how connectors work, because that is level 2, but it's time to unlock level 3 with projects. Because projects can solve one of the biggest frustrations with AI tools, and that's losing context. Before projects, every Cowork session was a blank slate. You'd have to re-explain who you were and what you're working on. But projects fixes that and helps keep you organized in Cowork, because each project gets its own folder, instructions, files, and memory. That way, when you come back next week, it remembers exactly what you were working on. Projects can be found on the left-hand sidebar right here under projects, and you would just select the plus sign to create your project. So let's say I wanted to create a project for my YouTube channel. I've already done this, but I'll show you how I built it from scratch. And here are some of the instructions that I included in this project. I said, here is my YouTube channel so you can see the content I've made already and my audience, and I actually provided a link directly to my YouTube channel. Now, all of my future video ideas are located in Notion. I like using Notion for my content pipeline. So I said reference my content pipeline in Notion, and I included a link to that as well. And then I mentioned previous scripts are located in my Claude Workspace folder, which is right there on my home desktop, just so it has access to all of the things related to this project. So now every time I open this project, Claude just knows my YouTube channel, my audience, the way I write, my tone, the content that is in my content pipeline. And you can obviously edit this stuff after you create it as well. You can see on the right-hand side, you can just click instructions to edit those instructions. You can add more context by selecting the plus sign down here if you want to give it access to different files. And you can obviously set up more projects for other things you're working on. So for example, I could create a new project for my short form content, or I can create another project for client work that I do. That way the context doesn't bleed over into each other. Everything is siloed into its own project. So this is level 3, going from isolated sessions to an organized workspace. But level 4 is where we introduce automation with scheduling scheduled tasks. This is when Cowork starts working for you when you're not actively using it. So here you can see an example that Cowork provides for us for a scheduled task, a daily briefing, where it'll summarize your calendar and inbox for the day. But for me, I'm going to create a weekly content research task. So I'm going to create a scheduled task where every Monday at 7 a.m., I want Claude to search the web for trending topics in AI tools. Check my X account since new AI releases tend to be trending there first, and then cross-reference that with my content calendar and generate content ideas with 5 video topic recommendations, each with a working title, a 1-paragraph angle, and an estimated search demand. Down here in frequency, I'll go and select weekly, and I can do Monday at 7 a.m. So every Monday morning while I'm getting my cup of coffee, Claude is now going to scan the web for trending AI releases and news and come up with video ideas that I could create for that week. He's my mini research assistant that does the work for me. But one thing to keep in mind is to turn on the keep awake toggle. That way these scheduled tasks can actually run. If this is disabled, the scheduled tasks won't work. But now let's unlock level 5 with one of the more recent additions, Dispatch. Dispatch creates one continuous conversation between your Claude desktop app and your mobile app. Your phone now becomes a remote control while your computer does all of the heavy lifting. To set it up, download the Claude app on your mobile phone and log in with the same email you use for your desktop app. Now from my phone, I can send Claude any task and it'll run on my computer. So let's say I'm out on a walk and I realize I haven't posted on LinkedIn this week. So from my phone, I can text Claude, go to my Claude workspace folder, look at my last YouTube script, and convert that into a LinkedIn post with an attention-grabbing hook, and save the final version in that folder. I sent that when I was out on my morning walk, and by the time I returned, the polished post is ready to go, formatted, punchy, and in my folder. That's the shift from synchronous to asynchronous work. You assign a task, live your life, and come back to finished work. However, the caveat, be specific with your requests. The feature's still a little buggy, especially if you're vague. So give clear instructions, name your folders, and it should work great. But level 6 is where things get wild. Because now Claude Cowork can control your mouse, keyboard, apps, everything, and it's called computer use. Here's how it works. When Claude is given a task, it will first check if it has a direct connector, like Gmail or Google Drive. If there is, it uses that because it's faster and more reliable. But if there's no connector available, then Claude will fall back to just operating your computer, clicking buttons, navigating apps, and browsing the web. To enable this, just click your name and then go to Settings, scroll all the way down to General under Desktop App, and then you will see under Computer Use the ability to toggle this on or off. Now you can go to Cowork and tell Claude, open Chrome, go to my X profile, pull the analytics from my last 5 posts, impressions, engagement, comments, then provide insights on what's working, not working, and recommendations on what I should focus on. So this is Claude working right now. This is not me. Claude is clicking around using my browser and looking at my last few tweets. It's taking screenshots, and that is how it processes what is on the screen. So it's basically auditing my Twitter account, telling me what I can improve on, and I could schedule Claude to do this every single week. But here's something important to keep in mind. Computer use runs outside the sandbox, so Claude is interacting directly with your desktop. Build trust gradually and start with lower stakes. Claude will ask for permission before accessing each new app, so you do have a checkpoint. But imagine pairing this with Dispatch. You could literally be eating lunch while Claude works on your computer. That's level 6, full desktop automation managed from anywhere. But it's time we unlock level 7, because this is the final boss, the end game. And it's where we put everything together into a full stack system completely built around you. But this is so advanced, even I'm not at this level yet. So I'm gonna introduce you to Austin, who is a growth marketer at Anthropic, the company behind Claude. And he is doing this at the highest level, because this past week, he shared a thread breaking down how he built a custom Cowork plugin to manage his Google Ads campaigns. And this thing has over 1 million views. And once you see it, you'll understand why. Because he created a custom plugin that connects to the Google Ads API. And this plugin is basically a playbook for how he manages Google ad campaigns for Claude. His plugin comes loaded with what Cowork calls skills. A skill is just a saved set of instructions for a certain task. So he's got one one for mining search terms, one for budget optimization, one for weekly reviews, and each one tells Claude exactly how to do the task the way Austin would do it himself. So here's a great example. One of his skills is basically his personal checklist for evaluating search terms in Google Ads. Austin's job is to go through thousands of search terms and figure out which ones Anthropic is wasting money on. Normally, you'd sit there sorting through spreadsheets for hours doing this manually, but Austin wrote out his exact decision-making process and saved it as a skill. And now Claude can follow that process automatically. And here's the result. When he tells Claude to run the search term skill, Claude connects directly to his Google Ads account, pulls the data, then runs every single search term through Austin's decision-making process. And what comes out the other end is a clean summary, all done in minutes instead of hours. And look at the spreadsheet it generates. Every row has the search term, the campaign it came from, how much was spent, and this is the important part, a column explaining why Claude flagged it. It's not a black box. You can read Claude's reasoning for every single recommendation. That's the difference between a tool you can trust versus one you're hoping is right. But it gets even better. Because his plugin's connected directly to Google Ads, he doesn't have to go back to the dashboard to take action. He can tell Claude right there in the chat, okay, block these terms, and Claude applies the changes. But it does always ask for his approval first. Claude shows him what it's about to do and waits for the thumbs up. It's like having an assistant who does all the research and prep work and then hands you the pen to sign off on it. But here's the true level 7 moment. He does all of this from his phone using Dispatch. He can pull up how his ads are performing that day, ask Claude for a budget recommendation, and approve the changes all without opening his laptop. This is stuff the Google Ads app doesn't even have, and Austin's doing this through texting Claude. If you take a step back, Austin is putting the full picture together. He's using skills, projects, computer use, and Dispatch. And things are still a little technical right now, but I assume this will only get simplified as time goes on. But there it is, the 7 levels of Claude Cowork. And hopefully this video took you from a beginner to a pro. But if you need to take an even bigger step back and just get a general overview of the features of Cowork, click this video right here, because I dive into all of the features in Cowork and break them down for normal people.